You've sung along with your kids to Kids Bop. You turned it up to Freedom Rock. Now, get ready for the softer side of cybersecurity with Sunsets and Snowdrifts, including all your favorite hits, like Don't Go Breaking My Encryption. Don't go breaking my encryption. I can't fight this phishing anymore. And I can't fight this phishing anymore. We will patch you. We will patch you. I want to know who logged this. I want to know who logged this. And who could forget, how am I supposed to live without Bisiso? How am I supposed to live without Bisiso? And who came up with this amazing compilation of cybersecurity hits, you might ask? It's your podcast host, Senior Sunset and Mr. Snowdrift, Evan and Kennedy.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Sunsets and Snowdrifts episode, if you guys can believe it, episode 7.
Holy shit.
I know.
How did you get Mike and I in the same room 7 times consistently?
And only keep it to like 1 hour, right? A piece.
Yeah, we did the podcast on Thursday, Mike and I, and before we knew it, it was 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then we stopped the broadcast, and then we talked about it for another half hour, 30 minutes.
Yeah. It was a good talk. I need a haircut.
You get a little shaggy on the sides.
Well, I think, Mike, you got one right before Hacks and Hops, right?
Yeah, I did. They cut off a little bit.
Well, and it was great to see.
How long ago was Hacks and Hops? It seems like a long time ago. Was that only like
I know, right? It was only a few weeks ago, right?
A month?
Damn.
Almost.
Was it a month?
Yeah.
Was it a month?
Yeah.
And I think I saw that the recording just went out and was posted just recently. I think maybe today that it got sent out of the live podcast that was in front of the quote unquote studio audience there. So yeah.
Yeah,
that was a good conversation. But today, now it's October, so happy October. I can't believe that either. And I don't know if you're aware, but obviously October, Cybersecurity Awareness. And you know,
what
everyone kind of does.
I have not gotten any marketing campaign or any harassment about it being Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Yeah.
Why do I have to be aware anyway? I got guys who take care of that for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to, since there's nobody else from Ostra on here, I'm allowed to click on whatever I want. It's the rule here at Ostra.
I click all day.
Yep.
Every day.
In fact, Kennedy clicks on all my stuff too that I submit. That's phishing. He just likes to mess with me. So
yeah, because if he forwards it to me and submits it as a phishing email, hey everybody, this is a phishing, and I click on it, he gets to sign up. It automatically signs him up for phishing.
It dings me.
It's security awareness training.
Nice.
So don't ever forward me that stuff. I'll click it for you so you get dinged.
Do you ever click links and then end up in a meeting and you're like, oh, hey. That's kind of how I got. That's kind of how I got here, actually.
You accidentally clicked on a link.
Yeah, I clicked on a link and I'm talking to you guys.
But Kennedy, you mentioned you haven't received facetiously, you haven't received any marketing on Cybersecurity Awareness Month, but I know everyone in this industry sends out all kinds of stuff about Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And I thought we might try to do this in a little bit different way than everyone else is covering it. Obviously, there's the essentials. There's stuff that everyone needs to talk about: phishing and password hygiene, two-factor authorization, all that kind of good stuff. But
inventory. Start with an inventory.
Yeah, all that stuff. But I thought we'd actually approach it more from the human side, because as you guys know, and I think you guys do a great job of approaching things from the human aspect. And so I thought we might approach this, kind of through the lens of human behavior, behavioral science, and just kind of the psychology of cybersecurity. we talk a lot about best practices, tools, tech, but maybe we dive deeper a little bit into that human side. So maybe we can start with let's talk about the psychology of phishing. I've heard you guys talk a lot about this. And so I guess the overarching question is, why do people still fall for phishing? I think that we can agree that this is where a lot of attacks really start, is right here. So why do people still fall for this?
Human emotion. I was on a call today with a customer and they were talking about it. It was actually a pretty good call. One of the executives was talking about why, as an organization, they're still they're pushing phishing awareness training, security awareness training, vishing, all of those things. And they talk through that they'd clicked on something and that earlier that day. And so they related to it. In the story they related, but then also it's like, this isn't going away. You can change your phone number, you can do different things, but we'll always come back to that kind of that human emotion that people fall for. My aunt, and one of the reasons kind of I'm in this stuff is my aunt fell victim to a foreign lottery scheme, and her belief was that she was going to win all of this money and give to her grandkids and nephews and whatnot. And that they every single time they prey on that human emotion to try to get you to click on something free, something that you've won, something painful. It's just all comes back to that kind of that, I think, in that human emotion. And then unless we all turn psychotics, then I don't think we're going to be able to get away from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Stop being so damn emotional.
Exactly.
Well, and how did your aunt, you've brought this story up before, and I've heard you talk about it, and this happens quite a bit, but honestly, I haven't heard many people talk about it. And I think there's some emotion to that too. I was going to kind of end with some of this later in this episode, but let's go ahead and talk about that. Like, how did she feel when that happened? Like that's an emotional thing as well, and I think that's part of the reason why no one actually talks about that.
No, and from her, she went pretty quick after that. It took a heavy toll on her. She lost everything. She lost her house. She lost she had all of her retirement stuff was gone because, we need an extra 10K to get it released. We need an extra 20K. It kept stacking up, and it was all in about $90,000 that she lost. And mind you, this was, gosh, at least around 20 years ago. So, for her to, they had to sell everything. My parents had to step in and help her get through that. And, there was a lot of kind of like that shame behind it. And that followed her. It followed her into, I can't remember what we called it, like the Section 13, or she had to file that she had no income, and they had to have the state pay for her facility that she lived in, and it just carried forward. But you see a lot of that of people that are, when they do click on something, like we joked about, is like we click on shit all the time, and we get emails, and we're all susceptible to stuff and in various ways, because we lead with trust. And like Evan said, if we get rid of our emotions, and I said we turn them into psychotics, then there's not for us to get out there. That stuff will still happen. We'll still be engaged. But for me, it's that there's no shame in that we clicked something. There's no shame that accidentally gave up $400 in gift cards to somebody because, I got caught. there's no shame in that elderly side of things, and those people that are targeted. There's a lot of and you have I don't remember the exact stats, Evan, but I know you have it, the suicide rate, the the numbers associated with that, because we build all of this shame around you click stuff. Why did you click something? Why are you an idiot? That was a phishing email. Now you got to go take more training. And now, there's not this association to it of, it's okay. And it's okay to report, and it's okay that it happened. We're here to support. We have to drive in that. So.
Yeah. It seems like the best, on the psychology side, whatever the hell it is. It seems like the best decisions, if you look back, on your own life, the best decisions you make are typically the ones where
Pain.
emotion and logic are sort of in balance.
Mm-hmm.
It's when emotion gets out of hand, fear, anger, lust. I mean, there's all kinds of emotions, right? And I look back at think of a bad argument with somebody, with a friend, with your wife, and emotions get out of control. And then how often do you look back and regret the things you said, the decisions you made during that time? And it takes some self-awareness. It takes some, I think, emotional intelligence to recognize when that's happening and put things in place. With phishing, what attackers are typically, the emotions that they're capitalizing on are fear. Typically it's fear of, it's almost always fear, actually, because it's fear of, well, if I don't hurry up and log into my bank account and take care of this,
Right.
they're going to send me some big bill or something. Or it's the fear of missing out. Like, if I don't click this right now and take advantage of this great opportunity of, making $1 million, I'm going to miss out. And so you don't take the time to think. And I think if you took the time to think, so it's not don't have emotion, but recognize when you're acting on emotion versus acting on logic. Because if logic were to sink in before you click that link, you would remember what your dad said or your grandpa said or somebody in your life said, if something seems too good to be true, it's too good to be true. That's true. So, if I click this and do this thing, I'm going to make $1 million. Really? I mean, it seems too good to be true because it is not true. So I think there's that piece. And then we all make mistakes. We all have emotions. So there are times when, we're weak. The situational awareness is a really big deal. So understanding where this email came from, why am I getting this email, putting that, if you can do that, that always helps. The rule of thumb on prevention, it's always the same. You never, ever, ever give out any sensitive information on any communication that you didn't establish. So that means through email, that means through a text message, that means through a phone call, anything. If I didn't establish this communication, I'm not giving any information. If you live by that rule of thumb and you can remember that and recognize that, you significantly reduce the opportunity. But let's say you fail, right? The name of this game, information security, is not 100% prevention. It's not perfection. It never will be. So you'll make mistakes. So on the prevention side of things, you try to, an ounce of prevention with a pound of cure, or whatever they say. Where I can't prevent bad things from happening, what do I have in place to detect it? So if I click that link and I'm like, oh shit, there's a detection, right? Listen to that. It's just like a computer. It's just like a computer alert that you'd get, in your SIM solution that's just in your brain. And then what would my response be? And prepare ahead of time. Who would I call? Crap, I click the link. Do I call Mike? Do I call, maybe I've got a tech, a family member who's, an information security person, who am I going to call? And yeah, the being ashamed is that's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's not going to help anything. You being ashamed, that's again your emotions getting out of hand. If logically, if you thought about it, it'd be like, there's nothing to be ashamed of, right? I made a mistake, and I'm going to learn from it.
I think part of it is also remembering how much, you both have mentioned, like, this isn't going away. In fact, they're getting better at this. Like, with all the advances in technology, and you think about what we're doing to try to prevent all this, they're doing just as much, if not more, to try to get better at fooling you and at deceiving you. And
that's the cool thing
pretty
about
good.
That's the crazy thing about attackers. So as a social engineer, my favorite target would be to use my logic against your emotions.
Yep.
That's a winning combination almost every time. And so your attacker is thinking, what's going to be the most effective way to capitalize on you, take advantage of you. And so the reason why it's not going away, and the reason why it's getting better is because it's working.
Mm-hmm.
They're making a ton of money. And the best way to take care of a social engineer is really to use your brain to think logically, to situational awareness. And if you actually ended up engaging with a social engineer, the best way to defeat a social engineer is to take them out of their pretext, which you probably don't want to do. It's fun if you want to do it. Just keep asking questions, and eventually they'll be pulled out of their pretext, and they'll mess up.
Yeah, we had a fun experience with someone trying to get gift cards with pretty much everyone in our organization, right, Mike?
Yep.
Well, yeah, thanks to your awareness, I didn't get that stuff I wanted on Amazon.
Oh no.
Yeah, right.
Well,
I had to pay for it myself.
And I can actually, Evan, I can relate to that. I experienced a moment of panic because, to your point, they were thinking of what can institute that moment. And I remember receiving once or twice an email that was very threatening, and it had an old password of mine. And I was like, oh, they have some information of mine that they should not know. And then I remember like taking some steps, because your heart rate goes up, you get discombobulated a little bit. And I remember stepping back and being like, okay, hold on. They have some information. It's not relevant anymore. They don't have anything specific other than that. This is nothing. But for a second, like, they put you in the panic mode.
Yeah. Well, and it happens everywhere. And sometimes that helps people recognize things when you see these things in other parts of your life that aren't necessarily related to a phishing attack. And I'll give you, some examples of where somebody can use their logic to take advantage of your emotions to get what they want. And I don't think it's any more obvious for me anyway than in politics. You see it play out all the time, where I'm going to use your emotion. I'm using logic, right? Because I know that if I do it this way, if I position the message this way, it's going to make you angry. It's going to make you frustrated. It's something. I'm going to tap into some emotion that's going to make you forget about logic and vote for me. It happens all the time. And it's not just in the United States. It's not just a Democrat Republican thing. It happens in Mexico, where I live. So the more you recognize, like, my kids, holy crap. I was talking about my 19-year-old daughter this morning with a friend. Like, she's the best damn social engineer I've ever seen. I'm really, really good. I think I am. I mean, I try to be really good at this job, and she takes advantage of me all the time.
Yep.
Holy crap.
Well,
but it's always emotion.
Yep. I was going to say, she plays on an emotion.
I'll get mad at her and I'm like, hey, no. And then she gives you that look, and you're like, oh my God, I just yelled at my daughter. I'm so sorry.
Right. I know the same with my kids. I want my son to be happy. So what do you want? What do you want? You want
Yeah.
that new toy? You want that, whatever. Yeah.
I
I
don't
think
So I
know.
think, and you always start with like, as security people, you can't change the world, but you can change your area of influence, right? So I have my family, my kids, my wife, my mother, other people. You have this circle of influence, and that's where it's got to start for you to talk to them about these things, right? To explain that, hey, mom, if you ever run into this, if this ever happens to you, I want to be your first call. I want you to call me. And I promise, I'm not going to, don't be ashamed. What we're going to focus on is getting things back on track as quickly as possible. And then we'll talk about things that we learned from it. But there's no shame in this. I've been taking advantage. I've fished myself before, for crying out loud. On accident. It was a test. Promise.
Yeah. I mean, that was where you were going with the analogies of other people and the social engineering. The one that came to mind for me is like, well, we've had a few hailstorms in Minnesota, and we have these big, massive people that come through and talk about, hey, I was talking to your neighbors and they have hail damage. I'm pretty sure you have hail damage too. You want me to go up and take a look? And I mean, as simple as that may sound, I watched a guy at my neighbor's house. He climbed up on the roof and he poked a hole through the roof. And then he came down and talked to him all about it. And I found this and we're going to come back. And then he came over to my house. I was like, who the fuck are you now? Go away.
Right.
And then the next truck came through and the next truck came through. And so it's that situational awareness that you kind of you talked about. And I think that is really beautiful, the comment you said about us having the influence within the people in our lives. Like as an example, we were doing something as a family, and the kids were talking about Snapchat. Jill was talking about Snapchatting somebody, and she said, "Oh, China has all our snaps." And Aiden's like, "No, technically China doesn't, because they're not owned, but China does do this with your videos when you put them in Snapchat." And he went down through the whole thing of how Snapchat and what content, how they use that content, and you have given them the legal right to use that picture, that video, that whatever that you put in the application for anything that they want to do from them and any other third parties. And listening to that from a 17-year-old, I was just smiling on the inside and the outside. I was like, but having that influence with those people, and I know we've talked about before, like with my mom. I don't understand how my mom and dad, and I've talked to her about this some, and I want to interview her on this and put some questions to go. But how does my mom? Why is she so aware? Because she knows right away. She gets the phone calls from her grandkids that aren't her grandkids. She gets the emails or the messages. My dad clicks on shit all the time. My mom's yelling at him to stop. But where is that awareness that she has, and how can I bottle that awareness and that belief and then and bring it out more? Because I want everybody to have that. And what you said, taking the time for us. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
It's no, man. It's definitely an acquired skill.
Yep.
And I know that because I get better at it. The more I focus on learning more about it, the better I get at it, and you never nail it. I've been in this industry for a long time, just like you have. You're constantly getting better. That's the point, right? Progress is the point, not perfection. So
True.
I know it's an acquired skill, and I think and everybody's different, right? You have to take into account their own individuality. Some people are just better at it, or they seem like they're better at it.
Right.
Like your father, if he continues to click on links and just doesn't seem to give a crap about it, If he does give a crap about it, then you would see him start investing time and energy into acquiring the skills to not do it again.
He was a
And
crap when my mom starts yelling at him, but yeah.
yeah, well, and that's it. Like, because people, I think, two main factors, and I don't know if you remember, there was this like in my freshman year in college, there was this class, psychology. Everybody had to take it,
Mhm.
and it was the Pavlov thing. Do you remember the dogs? Either feed them or shock them or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
Oh,
And it was a really important lesson to learn there, because people operate like that. Either they'll kind of just go mindless or just continue whatever it is they're doing unless they see a benefit for themselves. You'll make $1 million if you do this thing. Well, then I want to do that thing. And so that you're tapping, on the social engineering side, you're tapping into something. It's not true. If it was true, well, then you definitely do whatever it was. So if I said I'd give you $1 million if you stopped clicking on links, your dad would stop clicking on links.
Yeah.
Or the other thing is pain. So I clicked the link. My dad always used to tell me that there's consequences for shitty choices. So if there's no
Yeah.
consequence, then why would I expect anybody to change?
Right.
I think you have to get their attention first, and then I don't want to, I don't want to go through that pain again. Well, then here's how you don't do that. So I think a lot of times the frustration that we have as information security people with people is they don't change. And I think the reason why they don't change is because we save them from their consequences. I think if you let more people suffer the consequences of poor behaviors, you'd see a lot more people changing. But again, we don't want them to go through pain, but maybe pain is healthy.
Well, I think there's some stuff with it in the industry as well, right? That there's this apathy that, LinkedIn has already had a couple of data breaches and has given up all my personal information. The credit bureaus have given up all my personal information. My PHI got stolen with the doctor's clinic, the orthopedic clinic that I went to. You get it. When, and we've talked about this before and here and maybe other where that pain needs the accountability in that pain needs to get farther, because you're right.
Yeah.
And
they have all those
unless we're-
speeches, but nobody suffers, right? There's no pain.
No, there's no pain. And then
And
it
actually-
becomes, then it's apathy, right?
Yeah. And I learned this, there's so many parallels between information security and just like life stuff.
Mhm.
It's crazy, because I learned this firsthand from my own addiction problems, 20 something years ago. I would have not stopped drinking had it not hurt as bad as it did.
Right.
I was tired of the pain. Otherwise, because everybody around me was frustrated as hell. Like, dude, stop drinking. I'm like,
Right.
I like it and it's good. And I'm not suffering anything but then it hurts enough times, in jail or, whatever else, then you change. And I think the same thing with information security. When people click on the links, unless it does hurt, a lot of times people then don't know what to do with that hurt. Right. So
Yeah. Don't know where to take it. Don't know what to talk about.
yeah, they feel ashamed, and it's probably a pain that they've never felt before either. So it's like, what do I do with this? Where do I take it? I don't know.
along with the
Well, maybe
reward and the pain.
well, maybe that's an idea. Maybe how do we help people get past that?
Just beat the shit out of
No,
Oh, sorry.
we're not victim shaming. Remember?
Oh, yeah. No, I was just helping them get the pain first.
The pain. Yeah. You want them to feel the pain, but then on the other side, you want them to process the pain so they come out on the other side better and not just angry or shame from a victim standpoint and the stigma associated. Yep.
Well, and for us to share as somebody who's been through the pain, that set an example that I've been through the pain before and it didn't end everything. There were still things that happened after that. I have a friend of mine who's trying to save his son from facing the consequences of some of his crappy choices,
Yeah.
to the point where, you know, he might go to jail. And he's like, where can I find a lawyer? And I'm like, maybe he just needs to go to jail. And he's, well, but that'll ruin his life. I'm like, it doesn't ruin your life. I've been to jail many times and I'm fine. I'm a better person for it. I've learned from it. I can help other people with it. So even if you fall victim and let's say you lose $90,000, use $100,000, you lose everything.
Right.
Do you think it's actually over? Because it's not. And I think having people, so you went through that pain. Awesome. I mean, not awesome, but you're going to recover from it, right? There's people that will come around you and help you and lift you up, and you're going to recover. So this not, lack of hope thing, but then also in your story, there are other people who noticed. There are other people who noticed that you just lost $100,000. They don't want to have that pain. So you've also started to inspire other people,
right,
to not do the same thing that you did. But in order to do all of this stuff, we have to be more open and talk more openly about what happens, about how it affected you. It's like suicide. That's another mental health. People don't talk about that stuff because it's like taboo.
Right.
There's some stigma around it. It's like, no, fuck your stigmas. People do become victims. People do suffer with mental health issues. People do commit suicide. People do these things. And we need to, and the more we talk about it, the more that stigma erodes and the more people will talk themselves about it. And I think that's how you start to change things. Maybe. I'm willing to try it.
Yeah. I think, and that's what I was thinking too, is how do we give an audience to those? I love that though. Fuck your stigmas. Wonder if that domain's available.
I mean, seriously, who does it? It does nothing but hurt people.
Right. Yeah. No.
People are reluctant to become authentic and be real. And like, I struggle with stuff. Instead, what do? You don't share it with anybody and you kind of keep that stuff bottled in? No, man, get that stuff out there. And if people are going to judge you for it, the stigma should actually be on them.
Right.
In my opinion. I don't know. That's one of the things I love about you. And I love about, so many people in my circle is I can be real. And once you're real, there's so much freedom that comes with that. And how does this relate to information security? It's the same thing, right? Rather than playing the game that, well, I'm compliant with whatever, so I'm secure. Bullshit. You're not secure.
No, I checked the box.
Right. And let's define what secure is, right? To what degree are you secure? That's the question. So I'd like to see a lot more of that, a lot more just realness in this industry, a lot more. And I think that's how you combat the awareness thing. It's okay to be a little bit paranoid about things. It's okay to think critically about things.
Right.
Don't be a herd follower. Don't be a sheep. And that's the only way to stop being a victim is to choose to stop being a victim.
That's kind of a good segue to my next question and subject. We often talk about that issue. You mentioned the word paranoid, right? And we often talk about that, which is how do you balance that within an organization, and also maybe personally as well. So how can organizations foster a culture of healthy skepticism without creating that paranoia? We have kind of a saying that's, what is awareness versus apathy and paranoia?
Mm-hmm.
Where's that fine line, and how do you balance that?
Well, I think it's understanding what's healthy and what's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
In your environment, right? For you.
Yeah,
I don't make those decisions on what's healthy and what's not healthy for you.
Yeah.
And I use a simple equation to figure out if something's healthy or not healthy for myself. Is there consequences or are there benefits? And so when you look at an environment and they may have things super locked down and be paranoid, because I think paranoia is actually unhealthy.
Oh yeah, agreed. Yep.
But you see organizations that have things so locked down which is great if the purpose of your business is to lock things down, but it's not. The purpose of your business is to make money. The purpose of your business is to serve a mission. If information security is getting in the way of that, well, then it's unhealthy. And we have to figure out creative ways to be aware, put the adequate level of protection in place, but not restrict our ability to make money. That's kind of my take on it.
Very
Agreed with
well
you.
and efficiently said. That's one of the
Yeah.
best ways I've heard it said.
Well, thank you very much. I go to Harvard. I'm a professor at Harvard. I eat lobster on the harbor.
Octacon Harvard Yard.
Chowder. No, it just
Kennedy,
came out of my head, man.
You've gone back and forth on this issue quite a bit. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree with it, what Evan's saying as well. The same thing. It's understanding where you're at as a business. There's stupid things that people do, right? Where you let your marketing department drive your IT spend. Well, that's stupid. The IT department, security department should drive the IT spend. But, to Evan's point, there's business drivers behind it, right? And then also at the same time, I met with somebody yesterday that has shared conference rooms that they have PCs that sit in the corner and people can come in and do whatever they want with them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you guys doing? And we're like, well, look, here's what we do. We have deep freeze. They wipe the brains every day at this time. They're VLANed off from over here. And really, we educate the users that log into them. Okay, if you forget to log out, it's not our problem. It's yours, and creating that education. So there's always different aspects of the business and what a business is doing to make money. A classic example of Ahmad's on here, Ostra, and our Wi-Fi password. In our old office, I wrote the Wi-Fi password on the whiteboard. It was my son's name and his birthday. And I didn't think about it until I was on a call with somebody about 6 months later. And I said, oh, it's my son's birthday. And he's like, oh, I know the Wi-Fi password at your office. But at that time, there was no way. You're just getting straight internet. There's no east-west traffic. There's no ability to get in anything. It was a flat, secure network. And so, that again, from a business standpoint, did we want to spend a lot of money on appliances and build a captive portal and do all these things? No, we didn't have a need for it. So as a guest, it's Aiden 1226. Which is not a password for anything else. So John, don't feel like you can try it anywhere.
That's what he says.
Yeah. No, it's true. Well, it might be my wife's password. I don't know, but it's not mine.
Well, and that's it. We're a lot of times from a security perspective, we're quick to judge too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't believe you're using that as a Wi-Fi password. Well, the fact that you're saying that, the worst decisions I make, one, I said were, when emotion and logic are out of balance.
Correct.
The other times I make really shitty decisions is when I lack context.
Right.
When I don't understand how this fits with other things. And so
right.
I don't like making shitty decisions, and hopefully other people don't either. And if that holds true for you too, well, then rather than judge, why not seek out context?
Right.
Like what other controls might you have in place, to protect that? And I'm not asking because I'm judging. I'm asking maybe because I want to learn. Maybe I want to,
right.
Maybe you know some tips and tricks that I can go take to my own office. And then there's this judgment of everybody has different risk profiles, right?
Yes.
The things I do would be super risky for some people and like super safe for other people, right? So it's at the end of the day, you make the risk decisions. What's not acceptable is if you don't know what the risks are, if you're ignorant. And that brings us back to the awareness.
Yep.
The way I would be not ignorant about the risks that are surrounding me right now would be situational awareness. I know where I'm sitting. I know what's going on around me. I'm paying attention. I know what threats are, applicable here. I know what I would do in those threats. I know what my weaknesses are. It's the same thing. Take that, apply that at your life first, and then apply it to your business. It's the same concept. It's just a different scale.
Yep.
So it's not rocket science. You don't have to be technically anything. I get tired of people who keep telling me, well, I'm not technical enough to be a security person. I'm like, you're technical enough to be alive. So you're a security person, whether you want to believe it or not. I don't go home with you and choose what you do on your phone every day. And I don't lock your doors for you. I don't do all these other things.
Right. Situational awareness. Yep.
It always comes down to it, man. As far as I can tell, and I'm open to any discussion for somebody who wants to argue otherwise, because I don't know if I'm right or wrong. It's just what works for me. I'm still alive.
You're right. You're right.
Still alive. I only have one kidney.
Yeah.
But still alive. I still hack stuff because they're not paying attention. Right? That's, if you just think of if I were going to attack you, and this is helpful for perspective too, right? When you think about perspective, like if somebody was going to attack me, which way would they come and how would they come? Chances are that if I were going to attack you, I would attack you in a place where you're not watching.
Yeah.
I'm not coming through your front door. You're watching the damn front door.
Right. Yeah. It's the back gate.
Yeah. It's the back gate, or I can, even better if I can convince you to open the door for me. Invite me in and sit down to dinner. Give me your checkbook.
Yep. And that's where we get back to that. The social engineering, the phishing. That's what that trust. You're leading what people lead with trust.
Right. And that's why I think zero trust is bound to fail, to be honest,
yep.
You have to have a certain level of trust. If information security replicates what you see in just normal day-to-day life, if we all rocked around as human beings and started with a zero trust, we would never interact with each other. We'd probably kill each other.
Yeah.
So you have to have some level of healthy inherent trust. So figuring out what that healthy inherent trust is so that you can engage further, that's what's going to win. I just sent a text to my wife, speaking of situational awareness. I was asking Kevin, he's our CFO money guy, and I'm writing a stockholder report for this quarter. And so I sent him a message saying, what's our current estimated MRR, monthly recurring revenue number, and what is it approximately from a year ago? But I didn't text Kevin that. I texted my wife that. So my wife responded, what is an MRR number? So there's an example right there live on camera where I made a mistake. Right. I could have sent something very, thankfully that's not going to be a big problem, but imagine if you sent the wrong message to the wrong person. That happens often. Yeah. And I'm a security guy. I'm supposed to be an expert. I'm supposed to know the situational awareness. Like that message went to my wife instead of Kevin, but I made a mistake.
Well, you got to take it forward and say, Mar, can you, I meant to text this to Kevin.
I'm going to play this more.
I'm on a podcast. Can you ask Kevin for me and see if Kevin will give it to her to give to you?
I'm going to play out this MRR thing. I'm like,
that'd be interesting.
You don't know what MRR is? Are you kidding
you're
me?
going to go off MRR? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. Because if you push her too hard, she'll come up and hit you.
No, which is awesome. Because usually that hitting, leads to, it could be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
But on the obviously this one doesn't have negative, significantly negative consequences associated with it. But I don't feel ashamed. It was a mistake.
Right.
And it was of all places, actually, it was a pastor who taught me this, the difference between guilt and conviction. And it's wisdom that I take with me kind of everywhere. Guilt is that voice that tells you you made a mistake, you're no good, you screwed up. Who's ever going to listen to you again? Because you made that damn mistake. You know what I mean? It's this
Right.
tearing you
Yep.
down thing.
Yeah.
That's guilt. The other
Yep.
is conviction. And conviction is I made a mistake. Own it and change course. I'm not going to make that mistake again.
No.
The difference between those two is one tears you down. One beats you up. One won't let you grow. The other one will let you grow and make you a better person. And if you want to go, the fact that I heard this from a pastor, obviously there was a Christian piece to it. Guilt comes from Satan. Conviction comes from Jesus.
Mm.
Because Satan obviously doesn't want you to grow, doesn't want you to be effective, wants you to be a bum, wants you to screw everything up. Whereas Jesus wants you to grow and be a light and help people and be awesome and all that stuff. So if you ever do make mistakes and you click on that link and it costs you $100,000, choose conviction instead of guilt.
Yeah. Don't suck into the stigma. Right.
Fuck the stigma.
Fuck the stigmas.
I think along those lines, when you're talking about different behaviors and how to create and mold and modify behaviors, I think both of you have developed and led teams and have created your own behaviors through the application of positive habits. How do you all approach developing positive habits from the aspect of, simple things that can be done from a security standpoint, for those out there that are looking for simple things that they can do to improve their own security, for whether it's themselves or their organization? Maybe an approach that they can take.
Well, all of my stuff usually has come from pain as well, and change. Nobody's written me
$1 million get these bags under your eyes.
Yeah, nobody's written me $1 million check for anything. And so, and a lot of it too, like from a leadership, if we talk a leadership standpoint, I've employees call me out on stuff I flippantly say, or I don't pay attention to the shadow that I'm casting in the office or working with people. And how that kind of snowballs into other things. It's what I've found, it's not really healthy to have sarcastic conversations with my wife. And my twisted sarcasm doesn't really meld with her and her interest in, having more. So that, again, that's pain. And those healthy habits of, I haven't figured out how to eat my lunch in less than 5 minutes, more than 5 minutes. I haven't, I'm not perfect, but trying to do these things. They've always they've come from those pieces and the people that are around me and learning from them. You haven't mentioned it, like learning from my aunt. My mom learned from my aunt and that pain. I learned from my mom and my aunt and that pain, and then listening to my mom talk about my dad all the time. So it's those habits. Learn from us. Learn from the other people or your peers. Understand that it's not this is fuck stigmas in regards to victim shaming and clicking on stuff. Everybody goes through that. Help communicate it out, talk about our own personal experiences, making it okay. And the other thing, when you were talking about too, I was thinking about the authenticity. And you talk about the emotional intelligence, the self-awareness, the authenticity of, I think some of what differentiates people, the successful people out there, is they're just not fake. They're not not trying to, I don't know, of course I'm trying to impress, but I'm not trying to impress. It's not the point. We're trying to carry this message around how to do things the right way, and how can I be of service to you? That's my goal. I want to be of service. I want to give it back, give it away. The knowledge I have, the stuff we do. That's why when we joke around that I'm not allowed to sell shit here at Ostra, because I just give it all away. And I was at a conference in St. Louis, and I'm like, I'm gonna get sent to my room after my talk. And this guy texted me. He's like, "Did you get put in your room? And do you want to go grab a coffee?" It's okay, man. And because at that core and that authenticness of us is that peace and wanting to just be of service. How can I help you? I don't, it doesn't have to be, a solution, some fucking tool, whatever service, whatever. Let's just talk. Let's just talk about what's, so.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, being an ADHD guy,
Oh yeah.
being somewhat crazy, I don't have a lot of habits because they don't stick,
Right.
And people that aren't this way, they have trouble relating to it. I get up every morning and I don't know what I'm going to do that day. And that freaks some people out. But the one thing I am, and the one thing I encourage everybody around me to be, is be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a habit I have. And it's a habit that I don't think I cannot have, because being authentic is addicting. It's freeing. It's so good for my mental health to try not to be somebody that I'm not.
Right.
And so the people around me, I think, feel comfortable being authentic too. And then we can identify why you click on links. It's not some, you don't have to feel like you have to tell me some lie. You have to tell me something that I want to hear. You can tell me what it actually is. And then we can solve problems that are actually there versus some, wasting our time on stuff that isn't. So it's the authenticity. I can tell you the one rule that I try to live by all the time when it comes to phishing attacks and things, and I said it was, I don't give out information to anybody in any communication that I didn't initiate. Yep. If I do that consistently, it makes it really hard for you to phish me. It makes it really hard for you to vish me or any other kind of ish on me.
Yep.
But I will make mistakes. I'm sure I will. And when I do, I'll be authentic about it. I'll own up to it. I'll ask people to help me fix it if I need help fixing it. And I expect the same thing from other people around me. That's why our number one core value is and will always be, we tell the truth. Mm-hmm. And I love when people, because when you do tell the truth and when you are authentic, it's crazy how different you are from so many other people. I get called out, people like CSSP mentor program. There's lots of things that I do that people are like, bullshit. I'm like, try it. I'm serious. Like moving down here where I live right now. Like, do you really mean that anybody can come down there and visit you anytime they want? Yeah, that's what I said. And no, bullshit. Okay. I mean, try it. And people do. And then they're like, oh, so it wasn't bullshit. I'm like, no, that's the only thing I'm good at. The only thing I'm ever going to be good at is being me. I'm never going to be the best hacker. I'm never going to be the best CEO. I'm never going to be the best anything. The only thing I will ever be the best at is me. So why am I focusing on anything else? It's crazy.
Totally. Well,
I sucked at being me, then that sucks.
We're nearing
I felt
the
like
end
we were
of our
going
time. I mentioned at the beginning, we talked a little bit about hacks and hops. I did want to let everyone know that's watching this, that you can find all the hacks and hops videos, including the panel discussion / live studio audience podcast on FR Secure's YouTube page. And I know, Evan, I think your third episode with Oscar is this evening
tonight.
Is that correct? On InfoSec to Insanity, is that right?
Yeah, and if you
what
want,
are you guys
so
going to be talking
awesome.
about?
If you want, well, we're going to be talking when shit hits the fan. So we're going to talk about incident response, and it's just more authentic talk, right? I think I've got some of my tech issues worked out, but if I didn't, that's the one thing you can expect from our conversation. We won't be polished. We don't give you any corporate bullshit. It's just, what we think about things and how things work. So it'll be really fun.
Good deal. Well, you guys want to leave the
that would
audience
be
with anything else?
Be yourself, man.
Yeah,
Be
that's
yourself.
good advice.
Be authentic. And fuck your stigmas.
Fuck stigmas. Yeah, I'm gonna
I like
get a
it.
t-shirt made on
I
that.
feel a t-shirt or a sticker.
Yep.
Or
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure you already reserved the website. So
Well, I didn't get to it. I'm assuming somebody on the call might have.
All right.
well,
Have a
gentlemen,
good
thank
one,
you
you guys.
so much for the time.
Yep.
It's always good talking to you guys. I love you guys. Have a great day.
Yep. Yep. You too.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. See you guys.